Would love to welcome you all to our continuing series. This week we're focusing on math intervention, and I am very glad for us to hear from Lisa Riggs today, who is one of our expert math intervention folks, regional consultant for us, but also an AVMR math recovery champion, and really knows what she's talking about. So I'm going to let her get to it.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for that introduction, Dee. I appreciate it. We're glad to have everybody as part of our community. That is what it's all about. As she said, I am a regional consultant with Kentucky Center for Math, and there's my location. And just a little bit more about me and my background. A lot of you guys know me because we've been in sessions together before, but in case you're new to me and my background, I was a classroom teacher, interventionist, worked in public school for 29 years. I'm national board certified in 2003 as a middle childhood generalist, and taught fourth grade math as part of my classroom teaching experience. And then I really saw a need for some intervention. And fortunately for me, KCM became a thing right around 2006 or so, and I was able to be part of the second year of grants and was math recovery trained in 2007, became an AVMR champion and SNAP facilitator, and so I was able to work within my district and with KCM to train other people, which has been an awesome journey. I've been with KCM since 2015, so this makes my 5th year, which just is unbelievable to me that I've been doing this that long. Became a math recovery leader in 2015 and have loved every minute of it. So that has been very nice. Whoops, sorry, let me go back because when I move my mouse, it moves things. But I have a personal life too. I am married to my wonderful husband, Kenny. I've got 3 kiddos, 2 of which are totally grown up, my 2 boys, and they live out of state, which causes me just a teeny little bit of stress in this time because I'm going to make sure they're well taken care of, and they're hours and hours away. Nathan is up in Wisconsin and Evan's in Ohio. So I'm praying that they're all safe and sound as we go through this time. But in our pre-conversation, Dee was talking about her cats jumping in her lap. There's 2 of my kitties. I'm also a pet mom to 3 cats and 2 dogs. I didn't have pictures of the dogs though, but there they are trying, piled on top of my work. They're trying to help me out. So, but that's life here at our house. And my daughter, who is 18, she is in her first year out of high school and college and starting in work. So she's living home, and I'm loving that, having her here. So, but as I said, I've been part of Kentucky Math Intervention almost since the beginning of the MAF grant, the second year of the MAF grant. And we've been blessed in Kentucky that our legislators decided that mathematics is important and an important investment in our students, and that they continue to make that investment. So thanks to them for that. Our agenda for today, we're going to take a look at some of the research. We're going to do some child watching with and for those of you that are math recovery or AVMR trained, you know that's like a cornerstone of what we do is watch the kiddos, and then we'll share a few resources to go along with that. So here's some of our research. This might look familiar to a lot of you guys, which is the 3 aspects of number, which if you have attended our primary courses, this is one of the things we talk about in the primary courses as well. But that number can be verbal and symbolic, which are probably the 2 that most teachers and adults are familiar with, because we hear the verbal numbers, we see the symbols. But one thing that kind of gets overlooked sometimes in the shuffle is that quantitative piece. Okay, so we know that each aspect's important, but the quantitative sometimes gets overlooked. And to be fluent, we need kiddos to have the development of all three of those aspects. So, okay. Now my slide thing doesn't want to move. It's going to, there we go. It moved with too far. Okay. So principles to action also in their mathematical teaching practices know how important connecting mathematical representations are. And this graphic from the principles to action very much reminded me of the three aspects of number as well. So if you guys can see that on the screen, let's talk a little bit about how those two graphics are similar. And you can just unmute and let's have some conversation because we're not a really ginormously large group. So,
well, you still have the visual, symbolic, and verbal part of numbers. You're just now adding much more to it.
Right. Yeah. So we see directly that verbal and symbolic, right? But I think for me, the visual, the physical, and the contextual are part of that quantitative piece. Just in different ways.
Lisa, I think that physical part is so important for kids to be able to touch. I think we can't underestimate when kids are able to touch the pips on dice, when they're able to quantify amounts. And so having manipulatives at all aspects of their mathematics career is so important. So that physical is so important.
Right. Yeah. And to being able to understand that understand what those squiggles are. We can't just jump to the symbol until we build the concept of what the symbol actually means. So we want kids to understand the meaning behind the squiggles and the words that we say. So all those arrows going in all directions mean that we need to tie all those things together. And so to be able to use and connect those mathematical representations can tie all those aspects of number together and help to solidify students' understandings of what number truly is. And that is a foundational piece for understanding number and developing fluency, which we want kids to have. So we're going to take a look at, this is me back in my teaching days of working with a student. And as we watch, if you're math recovery trained, you know, we videotape every lesson. So in my career as an MIT and math interventionist, I videotaped two hours a day. I had 4 students that I videotaped half an hour a student. So I was used to being on videotape a lot. And one of the things when we very first started, when I started that and I was brand new, it was kind of daunting to take video clips to share to meetings because we would, that was one of the things that math recovery kind of expects you to be able to do is to share video, reflect on students and your teaching practice. And at first it was kind of very scary. But after a while, I was like, okay, I want to find, here's where I'm having a problem with this. I want to take that clip to show. So with my colleagues that they can help me with this problem. So in today's video, in today's little clip, we want to watch kind of the setting, see how it relates to connecting representations and what representations there are, and just, you know, the student and the teacher. I do have the student face blurred out because of, I just want to provide that student with some anonymity that since we're putting it out on to the globally and I don't have control over who's watching. Okay, so let's see. Hopefully you guys will be able to hear this well. Well, let's see. Okay. What do we want to change it to this time?
5.
So what did you have to do that?
Add
3 more.
Okay, add 3. Okay, good. This time we want to change it to 1.
6.
We want to change it to 1. What did you have to do?
So take 3 away.
No, you didn't take 3 away.
But I put 4 away.
You took 4 away. We had 5. If we change it to 1, we had to take 4 of them away. Now, what are we going to change it to this time?
6.
We have, I want you, before you start picking things up, you have 1, you need to make it 6. What are you going to have to do?
Make 5 and put 1 right there.
Okay, so you need to get 5. Is that 5?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
You don't need that many. Okay, so what did you have to do?
To put 5 on there.
Okay, you had to put 5 on. Okay.
Yeah, 2.
Yeah. What about 2? What do we do with 2?
Oh, we get 2 blocks and put them on there.
Okay. So what do we call that? What are you doing?
Adding.
Adding. So 5 plus 2.
Equal.
No, it wasn't 5 plus 2. It was 3, wasn't it? We started out with 3. Started out with 3 plus 2 equals how many?
5.
5 altogether. Okay. Now we're starting out with 5 this time. Let's find out what we're going to do with that. We want to make it
3.
3. What do you got to do?
Take 2 away.
Okay, so 5, take off 2 equals
3.
3. Okay. Roll again.
It wants to go where it wants to. They have to put 6s.
Okay, so we have 3. And how are we going to make that 6?
Add 3 more on there.
Add 3. 3 and 3 more makes 6. With it or take some off. If we need to make it 3, so what do we have to do?
Take 1 off.
Okay, so can you write down what that problem would be? Okay, so take 1 off. And now we have 3, so let's roll again and find out what we're going to do. Oh, now we need to make it
4.
4. So what are we starting with here?
3. And we add
How many do we need to get to make it?
1.
Okay, so there is our clip. And Jennifer, I see your question about the 10 dots. Yes, that's the 10 dot paper that is included in the handouts. That's from Developing Number Concepts, the parking lot paper. So that activity was called, it was a little bit of a twist on the Grow and Shrink activity that's in Developing Number Concepts. I'm not sure if you guys can see this because I can't see myself. So there, that book, but that's the activity that I put in the handouts. So let's talk about what representations we saw going on in that activity and lesson. And this is a conversation. So
you saw all 3. Yeah, I mean, there were the verbal, she was saying, they were saying the numbers, the symbolic, they were representing by writing on the table. And then the quantitative, they were building it by touching and using the cubes to do that. So there were all 3 of them.
yeah, there were. Yeah, and so how did that lesson scaffold to?
That lesson is pivotal in helping children understand, like, decomposing, composing, solving for an unknown. Like, so if you've got 5 and you took away something and you've got to get to 2, children have a hard time whenever they have an equation where there's an unknown in the middle. And like, how did I get to this point? So I think that's very powerful in building that skill.
Yeah. So thank you guys for that. Any other reflections or anything else we want to say about this? So
About the linking to the equations, and we kind of see that happening over time. Was that within the same lesson or multiple days? How
That
quickly
actually
did that?
it was within the same lesson. I did kind of have to shorten it because of you saw some edits there to shorten it to make it only about 3 minutes. But yeah, so it because it took probably of the lesson time, the actuality was probably about 10 minutes of the lesson time. So, but there was kind of a building from when we started, if you recall, we just started with him building it. And I didn't have the symbolic at first. And then I began with me writing it, which is where you see it there in that picture on the screen. And then after I wrote a few, then I was like, okay, so now how about you write it? And he was able to do that.
I think you also push the anticipation, the actual problem solving, not just fill it till it gets to the right total, but how many are you going to need, anticipating and planning.
Right, yeah. And I'm not putting that out there because it's a perfect lesson, but because I thought it illustrated the point of how you can tie the 3 aspects of number together in that setting. So there was one little place that there were a couple of things actually, but there was one place, and I'm not sure if I do this, if I can go back to it maybe. Okay. What do we want to change it to this time?
5.
So what did you have to do that?
Add 3 more.
Okay, add 3. That. I don't know. This little control bar keeps getting in my way where I can't slide the thing over. Okay. But at some point, he gets ready to build. And he says it's when he has 5 and he needs to make it 6. Or he has 1 and he needs to make it 6. Do you guys remember what he said? If you didn't write things down, you probably don't.
Are you talking about the part that he said that I need to make 5 first and then need to add 1? I liked how he was thinking in relation to the 5. Is that
Yeah, that was it exactly, Linda. But I think as the instructor, I don't know in the moment that I was attending to that. Did it look like I was?
You were, I think when you were saying that you were unit 5, and then he was saying I need 4 and 1, and then you catch that up later on. Yeah. It's just so hard to get recognize kids thinking at the moment. So.
Right, and that's why video is so powerful.
Yes.
To go back and to watch your video and to think about that, because when I went back and watched this clip, I was like, he was really chunking that 5, and I didn't really attend to that at all in the moment. But when I went back and watched the video, I was like, that's what he was thinking, and I didn't catch it right there.
I loved how you reflected on that moment, Lisa, because that got my attention, and then I knew, and on the moment, it's hard to make those decisions, but that's, as you said, that's the learning for teacher, because if you see yourself, sometimes we just focus on the answer we want to hear, and we don't hear what the student says, but stepping back and reflecting on the moment will make us more intentional in our next moves.
Right. Yeah, and Cindy says it shows the role of the board in that activity. Even it's very simple, and that's another reason why I thought this would be a good setting for us to share and talk about today, because parents could just copy this onto a piece of paper. It's very simple to make. It's just 2 rows of 5 dots, and it's kind of in my classroom I kind of call it our parking space or our work mat, and it's just a place for them to structure their counters, a place to put it. It adds a little bit of structure, but it's not as structured as a 10 frame. But it is similar to a 10 frame in that regard. So he could use the structure of those 5 dots and 5 dots to kind of structure within. So a 10 frame may be another tool that could be used to do this activity as well. Any other conversations you guys want to have about the video itself?
Lisa, I think that I think that one of the most powerful things is it illustrates the need for small group instruction and math intervention. You know, those of us that are here today really believe in this power of one-on-one with some students, or, you know, or at least a small group, so that we can work with our students. Imagine as you were slowing him down, I could see you physically slowing him down. He wanted to grab some and just put them on there, grab them and put them on there. And so that allows him, he knows that you're attending to it, and you have that capacity to really allow him to slow down, so that his, you know, his little synapses are firing and thinking about it. It's just such an important time. One of some students.
Yes, that was one of our challenges, that he really, I don't know, was a fast thinker, wanted to do things in a hurry. So I'm glad you picked up on that, Kelly.
And ability to slow him down like a good teacher does.
All right, so I'm gonna attempt to click on through here. Oh, there we go. So we talked a little bit about how changing up the setting might change the activity, because we mentioned that one thing we might use might be a 10 frame, but you might also be able to do this with a BeTrack. So let's think about how this activity might be different if our setting were, instead of the parking lot paper, were a BeTrack. Because we could do kind of a similar thing with a BeTrack. And I think I'll go to the next slide. Yeah, there we have. And your students may or may not, depending on if you've provided them with BeTracks, may or may not have one, but you can, Math Learning Center has virtual BeTrack. So I'm going to try to click through and see if you guys can see that. It doesn't want to drag. Can you guys see it at all? I'm not sure if you can see it.
No, your chat's hiding it. Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to close the chat then. How about that? Because it doesn't want to slide. Most things will slide, but it didn't want to slide. So the beauty of this app is that you can make it from 1 to 10 rows of 10. So there it went. Okay. So if we rolled and, for example, like he had 3 and we slid over 3, we're gonna have to ignore the other one, because if I were with a student, I'd probably just have 1 row, but my controls have disappeared off my screen for whatever reason. So, but if we made it 3 and then we rolled our dice and said, okay, now we want to make it 5, how might this BeTrack setting be more, or would it be more supportive, less supportive? How do you think it might be different? My chat so I can see.
Yeah, whereas before he saw it as finishing a row, it might be finishing the reds.
Yeah. Yeah, so we can see the structure with the color. I think it's very explicit. Okay, so we can see, oh, I just need 2, and then there's that grouping of 2. I can slide the 2 over to make it 5. Okay, so so what do you guys think about this quantitative aspect? I see where Jennifer's put in there, it reinforces that 5 and quantities of 10. I will say later on in that same lesson, I did up the rigor just a little bit more by giving him a 1 to 9 die as well. So it made the numbers go on up. But I just wanted to show you guys a little snippet of that piece. So yeah.
Lisa, I think seeing it in this way also makes him very flexible in his thinking, right? We don't always want them just to have a 10th frame, or we don't always want them just to have your little parking lot card. To be able to have that flexibility in seeing 10 and seeing 5-ness in a variety of ways, how beautiful for them to be able to then have this sense of what it really is all about.
Yes. Okay, so there is another tool that you can have for your parents to do this activity. This activity, the grow and shrink activity, could be done with the parking lot paper and items at home, which could be things like, they may not have the cubes at home, but they may have blocks or buttons or cereal or macaroni pieces or just pebbles on the ground or pennies. Anything that can be counted can be used for this kind of activity. So there's lots of different ways. Yeah, and I see where Angel says pony bees on pipe cleaners. Can make this too. Yeah, so a lot of parents may have those kinds of things, and you may some classroom teachers have made those and sent them home with their students, so they're a nice setting too.
Lisa, I think I saw the pool noodles. One of my teachers at a school that I visit here in Kentucky took the pool noodle, cut it up and made some big ones for kindergarten center. It was amazing. So
yes, I have seen those. Those are really nice. Yeah.
You can use the PVC pipe as the frame for that.
Yeah.
I think it was a hula hoop or something like that, Cindy. It was so interesting. I probably have a picture of it.
I was going to say, did you get a picture of that? We should have a picture of that. Okay, so I did want to share, our time is running almost out, but I did want to share a couple other resources with you guys. One of those is that I did pick up from Math Recovery's site, and I will just try to click through. Hopefully it will appear where you can see it. Is a site that has some games that this gentleman, Michael, has put together for this crisis. So he is at home with his son, and he's illustrated some games that can be played, and he shows parents how to create the game board at home. And what I like about, he does have a YouTube channel, which I did subscribe to, but when I went to his YouTube channel, it also linked to his website, which is what I've put in the PowerPoint, because the website includes the concept, the target level for the student, what equipment you need, and some of the good questions that you can ask during the activity. So it has a little bit more commentary to go along with it there. So, and he is he started out posting 3 or 4 games and is adding to his channel as time goes on. So that might be a good thing to bookmark and share it with your families, because it's a good illustration of how you can work with a student that's that age. So, and the other one is mathlearningcenter.org. When I was working with that virtual BeTrack and prepping this session, I noticed that they have some math at home resources that I think they've added to their site during this time. So when I looked at first grade, there's no login required. When I looked at first grade, just as an example, they have an activity of the day, and it's different. Like the one yesterday was a different activity, and they're archived to see the past activities. But there's one, and I think that these can be added to Google Docs. So if you have teachers that are needing to make some virtual lessons, this might be a good place for them to find some activities that they can put into their Google forms that if they're trying to have some virtual lessons with their students. So just another resource to add to your tool belt. So any questions about those things so far? Okay, well, it is almost 2:30, and so I do want to remind you guys that we have some upcoming professional development the rest of this week. Mr. Hines is going to be our MIT expert tomorrow, and then we have Tonda on Thursday and Jackie Dameron on Friday. So it should be a great week to learn from math intervention experts.
And Lisa, all of those folks are on right now, so we're learning from each other. Yeah, all three of them.
So I'll be ready to learn from those guys. And don't forget our website. There's the place where you can find the links and the other things that are going on this week. If you've got middle school and high school friends, they can go back and see our middle school presentations that we did if they missed those from last week. And we do have high school with Math with Leah on Thursday. And next week we have a lot of good place value things that'll be going on. And if you need my contact information, there's how you can reach me. So I've enjoyed our time, and look, 2:30, perfect timing.
Yay, good job, Lisa. Thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. We really do get excited about seeing all of your names and locations in the chat. Thank you for participating in the session. And then as always, we like to give kudos and shout outs to our presenters. And so if you've got things that you want to specifically highlight for Lisa, now's the time to do that.
And I do want to say thank you for everybody that made a comment or a suggestion as we were talking, because that's what makes the learning rich. We learn from each other. So anytime that I do a session, I want to hear what your guys' input. It's important.